everybody, I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just wanted to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in Season 2, Episode 2 of the Loki series. So if you haven't watched that episode yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Disney+, check that out, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down everything from Season 2, Episode 2 of the Loki series, it's Johnny Rico!
Hey.
Hey.
How we doing?
We're doing good. Look, I really liked this episode, and I know I said that last week. I understand it didn't have, the magic of, first episode back, new season, after 2 years, first episode back, but I think this was still a very solid episode. I really enjoyed parts. Look, I loved going right back into, like I said, for the recap of the first episode, I really liked seeing, once again, the Loki and Mobius dynamic, but I also liked getting right back into them, on a case, basically, on a mission, on a case again. And we got right back into that, and I really enjoyed seeing that. I mean, there's so many things from that mission that they were on that I really, really enjoyed, and we can get into more and more of that. But just seeing them kind of, back to that format is what I really enjoy. It's them solving a mystery. It's them solving a case. It's them on a mission type of thing. I liked that. I like seeing them work together again and everything like that. I have to say right off the bat, seeing Loki use his magic like it's nothing against X5 is insane. You don't even... I'm so used to seeing Loki paired up with against Thor or against superheroes and heroes and stuff like that you don't even think about how powerful he actually is to just a normal human. Even a human from the TVA, he is still and that he can do anything he wants. He can do anything. He had an entire crowd of fake people. It was just holy shit. I didn't even I don't think about that in all of the past, appearances that we've seen Loki, basically. And just to be able to see him do that, and I'm gonna get more into this further along in this video because I kind of have a broad theory. I'm finally getting back to predictions and theories, and I'll be talking about that later. But it goes hand in hand with what I'm kind of talking about with the power level Loki and stuff like that. The other thing I really, really liked seeing, and I would love to see more in the future of, is at one point, Mobius loses his temper, lets his emotions get the best of him, and we have a cool down session in the cafeteria with over some key lime pie with Loki and Mobius. And I loved hearing Loki say this. Don't you remember the time that I let my emotions and my temper get the best of me when I was angry at my brother and my father, and I went and attacked New York City and threw Tony Stark off a building?
I held the whole of New York City hostage with an alien army. Tried to use the Mind Stone on Tony Stark. It didn't work, so I threw him off the building.
I just loved hearing that was his take of, I just let my emotions get the best of me. That whole Battle of New York thing, it's just my temper. I just loved hearing that as he's trying to comfort Mobius and just be look, emotions get the best of us all sometimes type of thing, and just giving it as a random example of I stubbed my toe and cursed out the cat or something like that. It was just the equivalent of that. It just it was hilarious to me. But Rico, what were some of your instant reactions from episode 2?
Yeah, during that scene, I was thinking he's talking about this it was this distant memory from so long ago, but that's literally the timeline that he was just taken from. So that should be a very recent memory for him. It's so funny that he's talking about it was so long ago. So I guess
But a
it's
lot of shit's happened.
I guess I was gonna say a
To
lot of
be
stuff has
fair.
happened since then. So yeah, it does feel like a long
Yeah.
time ago since it probably happened. But it's still kind of funny how he talks about it like it was like so long ago.
Right.
But when in reality it probably wasn't that long ago for him. But yeah, I thought this episode was fine. I wasn't it didn't blow me away the kind of the same way the first episode did. I think the first episode did a great job of kind of laying the groundwork of what to expect this season. And this one took some elements of the story and kind of stretched it out a little bit too long, in my opinion. I thought the interrogation stuff went on a little bit too long. And but it was cool seeing Loki and Sylvie back together again. I just like seeing the dynamic between those two characters. All the scenes between those two actors were really great. I really enjoyed those two together. And also like we didn't get too much of the McDonald's like kind of McDonald's product placement thrown in our face so much like I thought it was going to be. So
Yep.
it actually was a little bit more story driven. I just kind of wanted more out of certain storylines, so to speak. So yeah, I didn't think it was awful, but I didn't think it was great.
You know what I'm confused about? Like what you're saying with the Loki and Sylvie being back together, like the dynamic again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why this is the first time Loki is face to face with this like the present tense Sylvie. Like we obviously in the first episode he was in the future. He saw Sylvie in the elevator type of thing. This is face to face since they kissed and she pushed him through a time door, basically. Yeah. So why was number one she angry, but number two, why was he like, oh, I'm sure I'm the last person you want to see? Like they were still kind of.
Well, they weren't exactly on great terms when
they
that whole
weren't
thing
on
ended.
Bad terms, though. It wasn't like Loki pushed Sylvie through something or anything like that. Like,
yeah, well,
Loki
they had opposing
said,
views. One wanted to say he remains, one wanted to kill him. So I think that's kind of the whole the falling out after that.
I guess, but like, I was just very confused by that emotion exchange, like that particular emotion like exchange. Like I can see if she was annoyed and like why are you bringing the TVA here, but like not the why are you here. Like I would think she would be not excited and happy to see him, but just like, oh shit, like you're here, like you know what I mean. Like just I don't know. That was the only thing that kind of confused. Like I understand like why her hatred of the TVA and her and you know as we go forward and not wanting to work with the TVA and stuff like that. And because of all of her past, you know, with the TVA and being taken away and being like all this stuff and been running, but it was just very, I don't know. I was just very confused with that emotion. That's all. But yeah, I really enjoyed how we didn't get the McDonald's product placement like all of a sudden like shoved over our face. I really enjoyed how, you know, we are having this moment with Loki and Sylvie. Like it was supposed to be like a more of a dramatic moment. And then inside it's Mobius and
X5, yeah.
I thought you were setting us up for an ambush. Hell, you were just setting us up for a great meal.
That was and they didn't even like talk about specific products, right? They weren't like, oh, this apple pie is delicious, you go eat it or whatever. Like it's just like, oh, it's a great meal. Go look at us having a good meal inside.
Yeah, it was like enjoy your shake. Like it was just funny. Like I don't know. For me, that hit. I thought that was pretty funny. Like type of thing. But do you want to get to some big takeaways?
Let's do it.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to kick us off with big takeaways. Basically because there's so many things that I wanted to talk about in this episode that I'm making sure I'm not going to make a giant long list. So one thing really caught me that Sylvie said, and it was the effect of the TVA is rotten. And that was when she, towards the very end of the episode, where she actually goes through the time door and she's in the TVA again for the first time since, I guess, the season finale of Loki, the first season. But when she sees that all of the timelines have basically been obliterated, pruned, basically, she's like, oh, you guys are supposed to be the defense. The TVA is rotten type of thing. And what it really made me think of was S.H.I.E.L.D. in the Winter Soldier movie, where we were finally showing that Hydra had infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. and it was all coming up and it was all boiling to a head. And it was like, you didn't know who was on the right side at all type of thing. And it really made me think of that because right now at this very moment, as the TVA, like our central core characters are finding out that are still working for the TVA, they don't know who in the TVA they can exactly trust, other than like the 5 people in the room that they know what are they're thinking, basically. At this point, we don't even know for sure if we can trust Obi, like just because he's a new character. Like, I want to trust him. I think he's delightful, but you just never know. Like that's what I think this is kind of, at least that comparison in my head is starting to like make me wonder, is like, can you trust anyone in the TVA other than the core players that have been in that main room and that were, upset, I guess, that the other timelines were being pruned, type of thing. And that's just a small handful of people in that giant building type of thing. You know what I mean? Like that giant community of people. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see if, that's going to play more of a part, because right now it's almost like their biggest enemy is the TVA. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, you don't know if you can trust the next person over there because you don't know exactly what their motives are anymore moving forward, because everything is in kind of flux and chaos. But yeah, it just that got gears moving for me, and it'll lead more into my predict. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that I think this will stack onto in kind of moving towards the future and going into predictions and stuff like that. But before we get there, Rico, what were some of your takeaways from this episode?
Yeah, there was a couple of things that stood out to me in this episode. The beginning of the episode where, Loki's in his suit and he's chasing, Brad Wolf, aka X5. I just felt like the way that Tom Hiddleston was playing that scene and everything when he was capturing him was very James Bond-esque. And to me, it just felt like a cool little nod to the way people have always kind of like fan casted him as James Bond, like the next James Bond after Daniel Craig. So I just thought that scene was just kind of like a cool, like, hey, here you go. You've always wanted to see him as James Bond, but we can see, James Bond meets Loki in a sense. And so I thought it was kind of cool how he was kind of playing like this suave James Bond Loki character. And it was a lot of fun to watch for me. I thought that was just a really cool little nod to that. And but really, kind of the big takeaway for me, I guess, from this episode is this TVA guidebook that keeps being referenced in these last 2 episodes. It seems like it's going to be a bigger deal than we're being led to believe, I guess, or they want us to believe it's going to be a bigger deal later on. Obviously, the fact that it was written by Ouroboros OB is obviously a relevant fact in and of itself. The way that Casey reacted when he realized that he was like, he met the author of the guidebook was really cool. And then like B-15 being like, what? Well, why are we talking about this now? We have some stuff going down. That was just a really funny scene in itself, where like they meet him like, we're all gonna die. Yeah. No, I read the book. Yeah, no, nice to meet you. Yeah, we're gonna die. So I'm really curious to see how the book itself is going to play into the plot later on in the season. I feel like that's just kind of like that one little lingering thing that's going to be there in the time of need, and it's going to come into play at an important time. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays into it. Also, I have to imagine at some point Marvel is going to find a way to release the TVA guidebook as its own book for people to come out and with Kehi Kwan's signature and stuff. Yeah, you'll definitely get it. You can do a review on it and let us know how it is.
We'll have it back there in the background. Along with the pruning wand thing, we
gotta get you the Scott Lang book too. Obviously.
Oh
yeah. So plenty of reading coming Danny's way.
Damn it! I mean, I'm super happy, but damn reading. One little small detail that I think also the importance of the TVA guidebook, and I was just thinking about this as you were kind of describing this, is that obviously the TVA guidebook has been around for a long time in the history of the TVA type of thing. Yeah. And we know
Bible.
Right. And we know that, all of the characters have had their minds wiped. Various stages of their minds wiped. We saw the evidence in the first episode where in the past, there were statues of Kang, no matter which one it was, and then they got covered up with the timekeeper and all that kind of stuff. So we know that everyone's had their minds erased, except for Obi. Now, there could be a very simple reason. Like, he always says, like, no one ever comes down here. So, like, maybe literally he's trying to say that they forgot to wipe his memory. But also, what if he's something else is what I'm saying, and can't have his like either can't or is working with whoever is in charge who did wipe everybody's memories, type of thing.
Right.
I'm starting to wonder stuff about Obi. Like just these little teeny tiny things make me wonder of like, what is he? Who is he really? Type of thing. So
absolutely.
It's really interesting to kind of just and they don't point it out like crazy. It's just little things in there, like
it's hinted.
Yeah. And I like those kind of breadcrumbs in here because it's not a major plot point. It's not a major, like shoved in our face. It's just these little things that we can kind of think about and it'll just run underneath the radar until it's like pertinent for it to happen type of thing. And I'm excited to see what that payoff could potentially be.
Me too.
Do you want to get to some predictions?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Why don't you kick off predictions?
Okay. So it's really the only thing I want to see going forward is I want to actually catch up with Ravonna Renslayer and Miss Minutes. I feel like now we've seen them hinted at for 2 episodes. Can we actually see them on screen? That would be pretty great because I love the actors. Obviously, Tara Strong as the voice of Miss Minutes is awesome.
Yeah.
And I think Gugu Mbatha Raw is the name of the actress who plays Renslayer. And she's great too. So I want to see more of them on screen. And I just kind of want to see, and obviously that would obviously lead to seeing Victor Timely, aka Kang, or if he's some version of He Remains, who knows what that is. But I want to see more of that storyline unfold and kind of see more of the big picture here because like this is another 6-episode season if I'm not mistaken, right? So it's like the fact that we're waiting this long to get into it is like, it seems we're waiting a long time. But I've heard a lot of good things about the 3rd and 4th episode, so I'm excited to kind of buckle up and kind of watch these next episodes coming up.
Very cool. Yeah. I'm super excited to kind of see what Miss Minutes and Ravonna Renslayer have been, working together on, other than just escaping and kind of staying under the radar. They've got to
free will.
Yeah, they've got to be doing something. So I'm very interested to kind of see where they're going and where their motives lie. Like, are they really looking for Victor Timely, another Kang variant? Like, are they like, or is this like a contingency plan? Like, was this all planned out all along? Like, hey, if the TVA ever falls, go to this, work with Miss Minutes. You never know. Like, and that's what's really interesting about kind of having this unknown element, I guess, for the first 2 episodes. Like, I understand, like, I'm right there with you. I want to see both of them, but at the same time, like, it's building that suspense. So I'm really hoping, just like you, that the 3rd and 4th episode, that's where we're kind of getting to where they've been, what they've been up to, type of thing.
I want the whole 3rd episode, not the whole 3rd episode, but the majority of it to really cover like what they've been up to since the finale. Like, I want to see her discover He Remains body at the end of time, and then kind of see where she goes from there. Yeah, I want to see like where her arc kind of goes from where we left her.
That could be interesting, especially if they play on the time element of things. But anyway, so one thing that stood out, we were kind of mentioning the interrogation scene, but there were actually, I guess I counted it as like 2 interrogation scenes. But during the first one, when X5 was trying to get under Loki's skin, and like I said, ultimately he gets under Mobius's skin, and Mobius slaps him, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But as he's trying to do that, he's basically saying how terrible Loki is, how many awful things he's done, how many people that him and Sylvie have killed, and all this stuff. But like, he basically, boiled everything down to, you make everything worse. And that, to me, just seems like one of those echoing statements that gets a callback further, like way down the line, when we see that particular person rise to the occasion.
I feel like Mobius says something similar to in season 1.
In season 1, yes. Yeah. And as you see, it kind of comes full circle where, Loki does do some honorable things and kind of, you know what I mean? Like, he isn't the worst. He said something to the effect of, you'll always fail, I think what Mobius
you always lose. I think
something like that. But this kind of, him saying that you always make everything worse kind of had me start thinking, and this is a very broad prediction. Like I said, it's not about next episode. It might not even be by the end of, the Loki season 2. But it just had me thinking of Loki, kind of a Loki arc for the MCU. Where, we've always seen Loki as, mostly villain. Sometimes he helps when it aligns with what he wants and stuff like that. But the Loki season 1 and now, the beginning of Loki season 2, this character arc, this character change in Loki that we're actually seeing. This is the, wanting to do better type of thing. And I'm looking at this almost like we're going to have this as a callback movies from now. And I am actually going to throw this out there now. And I'm not the first one to ever say this. I think this Loki at some point is going to be interacting with our main MCU timeline, our main MCU people. I think this is the Loki that's going to do that. And the reason for that is I think even if Scott went to the rest of the Avengers and said like, hey, I dealt with this guy named Kang the Conqueror down in the quantum realm, but I kicked his ass. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not going to really establish how big of a threat like Kang really is. And I think Loki is that type of person, that character that could really go, no, you need to understand this. He is a major threat. And not only him, but all of his variants are major threats. Like, we have to get together. And I think so. I'm starting to think, what if Loki becomes that hero that has to build the team of multiverse Avengers for like Kang Dynasty, or even like, he's a leader during Secret Wars type of thing. Like after they fail in Kang Dynasty, like we have, the aftermath and like maybe even he could be in Kang Dynasty and be like, no, we have to take them seriously. We understand. You understand?
Yeah, he's going to be the one with the knowledge when the Kang War kind of like bleeds into our main MCU timeline.
Right.
That's what I think was going to happen.
Yeah, and maybe they're not even going to trust him or believe him because like, that Loki, why should we? But you know what I mean? Like, so I think he's going to have this grand redemption arc, which he kind of already has had. If we're looking at this, he's turned to
several.
Yeah, but I think it's on the multiverse scale. Like I see him in one or both of these upcoming Avengers movies being either a leader or somebody that pulls the team together type of thing, and actually being on the Avengers. I could see that. And then we could point back to X5 saying, you always make everything worse, when he is part of the team that actually saves the multiverse type of thing. And so that's kind of my super overarching like prediction for like the next 8 years of Loki.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I wanted to ask, and it's not even a prediction, it's just a question. And if you don't know the answer, I don't know the answer. Maybe somebody out there watching it, by the time they're watching it, will know the answer. So at the very end of the episode, Sylvie is in the McDonald's parking lot. She's gone back to, where she was on the branch timeline. Yeah, she goes where she was on the timeline.
Yeah, there's a cool Easter egg about that place too from last week that I learned about too. Go on. Okay, go on.
Okay. And she's sitting on her truck, and McDonald's is closed, and her coworker leaves, and she's holding something, and it's glowing, and it looked kind of familiar, and even more so, I thought there was like as the credits were going, I could have swore that I actually saw part of it, and I saw part of He Who Remains desk, and it's sitting there, or something that resembled it at least was sitting there. So what I really have to ask is, what is it? And am I thinking about that correctly? Was that something from He Who Remains desk? Like,
I assume so. I assumed it was like a version of a tempad or something like that, but I wasn't 100% sure. Like, it's something that she has to be able to get around because she left on her own accord.
I just figured she had another tempad, but she always had.
Yeah,
one.
so I think that's just figured that's what it was, but who knows? I think that we're just kind of left to see what that is and then find out later.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure, but what were you going to say though? I know you had that thought. I don't want you to forget it.
Oh yeah, so the location where Sylvie ends up in the last episode, and obviously where she's working at the McDonald's here, I think it's like a Broxton, Ohio, or something like that. It's one of those. It's like a random place in the middle of nowhere. But it's actually in the comics. That's where Thor actually makes New Asgard.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like their little nod there. So the fact that Sylvie went there is kind of a cool nod. So who knows? Maybe on this branch here, their Thor ends up making a new Asgard there, and we'll get some kind of nod to that at some point. So yeah, I think that would be kind of cool to see that. But I really like the way they throw in those little Thor Easter eggs for fans to point out later on. So yeah, that's really enjoyable.
That's awesome. I did hear about that, and I completely
And the
forgot.
Cerebro door from last
Yes.
episode too. Yeah, there's a lot of
Yes.
stuff that they're throwing in there that are making people think.
Yes, absolutely. There's so many Easter eggs, which there's so many things to enjoy. There's little nods to everything. I can't say enough how much I'm so happy that the Loki series is back. I cannot wait for episode 3. Yeah, I guess as we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of episode 2? And where are we going to see Renslayer and Miss Minutes? What have they been up to? When are we going to see Victor Timely? When are we going to see all of these people? And what is up with Obi? And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Popping Off presents That Recap Show.